Some comment.
That's the G.
Hello, Nick family. Welcome to the Queen's Court. I'm your host, Stephanie, aka Queen, and as always, we have a lot to talk about. Shout out to Simeon Russell, creator of the channel, for the opportunity. For those that don't know, I am the creator of Dope Soul Sports Talk, the weekly show, the game recaps. But this is where I got my start, right here. Nothing but Nick's Queen's Court. Um, and it's always good to be back during the season on Monday nights. Right now, the Knicks are 4-5 overall, fifth in the Eastern Conference, a 1-3 week with a win versus the Milwaukee Bucks and losses at against Houston, against Atlanta, last night against Indiana. This week, they're embarking on I believe it is a 4-game and 6-night slate of games starting tomorrow night in Philadelphia for the first game of the in-season tournament, now called the Emeritus tournament. So that starts tomorrow. Joel Embiid, from what I understand, will be back for that game, as well as Paul George. Maxey is out with a hamstring injury. I don't think it really matters, in my opinion, what the record of the other team is, because the Knicks are a team themselves in search of chemistry and consistency. And we're shorthanded. So right now, the Knicks are top 5 in field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, free throw percentage, offensive rating, and starter minutes. And they're in the bottom 10 in field goal attempts, 3-point attempts, free throw attempts. So they got to get the volume up to take advantage of their good percentage shooting. They're bottom 10 in defensive rating as well, bottom 10 in rebounds per game, and dead last in bench minutes. Number 30th at 12.4 bench minutes per game. So tonight we're talking trends. What trends are we noticing that is really much ado about nothing, and that we think will get better over time, and which trends are really a concern. We'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about Thibodeau and his super tight rotation, even for him. So let me bring in the panel: Tony Crow, Nicks and Bruises, Jeff Clafter from the Happily Ever Clafter Daily Sports Blog, and also resident panelist of the Just Nicking It weekly show. How we doing, fellas? And Lady in the Chef, 2 Nick's Tricks. She's hustling. She might make it tonight. We shall see. If not, we're gonna have to hold it down without her. How you guys doing?
Peace, Queen. Glad to be back, joining the panel.
Doing well. Glad we have company to be miserable with, I guess.
Well, before we do a deep dive, let me just get your overall opinion on these first 9 games, just in the sense of, is this about what you would expect coming into the season, given the changes that were made, or even given the changes you thought the process, you think it would be a bit different? Tone, then Jeff.
So record wise, I think we're right around where I thought. After 20 games, I knew it was going to be a tough first 20.
Mhm.
I thought we could be, at worst somewhere around 500. At best, 13-7
Mhm.
or something like that, 14 and 6. So we're right around where I thought we was, but how we got here is probably the most like telling thing for me. You know what I mean? Like some of the things I didn't expect. Like I didn't know Cat has been phenomenal to me. You know what I mean? I didn't know he was this dynamic of a offensive player. Um, so that stands out for sure. You-
Mhm.
Brunson, rough start of the season,
Mhm.
especially shooting wise. I wasn't expecting that. OG's been a pleasant surprise as far as his just right down the line with defense and offense. You know what I mean? Like right down the middle. He's been doing a little bit of everything. Maybe asking for a little bit more rebounding from him, but we'll see. But yeah, we're right where I thought we would be approximately.
Mhm.
How we got there, I didn't expect. I thought it'd be tougher in Boston. We smack Indiana. Now we just we crack, we fold down the stretch to them. I thought we would have beat Atlanta. Obviously, thought the Bucks would be tougher. So it's
Mhm.
like just how we got here is different than I expected. But where we are is right around where I thought.
Okay. Jeff, what's your initial thoughts before we do this deep dive or deeper dive?
Well, I'm a little bit below where I thought we would be. I didn't really think we would be under 500 at any point this season, except maybe after game one. So that from that standpoint, it's a little bit surprising. Um, given all of the injuries and the changes and everything that we're going to get into, maybe it's not as surprising, but um, that's kind of the thing that stands out to me rather, is there's just a lot of not a lot of depth right now on the lineup with 2 3 reserves out, and there's obviously not a trust with the younger players, and so it just doesn't feel like it's a sustainable formula uh for what we're doing right now. And then I expected the defense to struggle a little bit, but I didn't expect it to be this bad. I mean, I haven't really, and I think OG's been a positive, and I don't want to put this all on Bridges, but he's been disappointing at the point of attack, as far as I'm concerned, for most of the season. That was a shock to me. I really felt like he was going to come in right away and do a solid job on that. I just haven't seen that yet. Not to say that it's not coming, but I think I kind of expected to see that sooner. And Cat is kind of like Julius Randle defensively. I don't really expect a lot on that end of the floor. Just kind of be competent. And I don't know. I haven't looked at it close enough to say that he's definitely been bad or good. So I guess from that standpoint, I'm okay with him. And but we've got to limit the amount of opportunities that people are getting at the rim, and it just seems like when things are in the fourth quarter, like that Cleveland game, they shot 11 of 17 in the fourth quarter. Against the Pacers the other night, we were clearly out of gas, and they just 40 points in the fourth quarter, what, 6 of 8 from three at one point, and just wide open looks, not getting the rotations like we should. So those are things that I've noticed that are kind of disconcerting for me. I didn't expect us to be, a juggernaut defensively with the lineup that we have, but I didn't expect us to be a traffic cone either.
Yeah, I definitely hear that. 21st in in defensive rating, 13th though in points, 13th or 14th in points allowed per game. So top half as far as, as far as that concerned, but that's concerned. And Mac Reed had a stat a few days ago. I don't know if it still holds, and that is that the Knicks are allowing fewer attempts at the basket than last season. So that does say a little something about our perimeter defense, at least statistically. However, once they get to the rim, they are converting, and I think at the time it was 71.5%. And today I read an article that Karl Anthony Towns specifically, um, teams have individual players on the different teams through the up to this point in the season have taken 35 shots at the rim against him particularly, and have hit 32 of them, which is at 91.4%. So Towns isn't great at the rim. The Knicks as a team is not great in terms of defending the rim. But the question I have, and we'll talk about this later in the show, because I kind of want to start with Thibodeau since that's kind of what we've been talking about. I'm really interested in how other teams have won without rim protectors. And I was talking to Tony about this earlier. Every team that's been successful, and I'm talking about winning championships, not every one of them have had a rim protector. And so how have they done it? And does Thibodeau now has to shift his defensive scheme based on the players he has? That's something we'll talk about. But let's get into Thibodeau. You could talk about your thoughts on him overall as well. But I specifically want to talk about this super tight rotation at this point. And I get it. There is a significant drop off after Deuce McBride, who's the sixth player, the sixth man on this team. Is it worth it? And I was talking to Tony about this earlier. I think there is a risk either way. But which risk are you willing to take? And the risk is, for me anyway, as I'm seeing it, is play these younger guys and see if you can buy some minutes. Like can you play them 2, 3, 4 minutes and just buy some minutes? So, for example, Bridges, instead of 38, he's at 36. If you buy 4 minutes for Hart, and if he's instead of 40, he's at 36, so that they can be fresher down the stretch. Like, do you try to do that? But at the same time, there is the risk that you put them in a game and they don't do well. you know and now when the starters get back in, they kind of have to put up a little more energy to kind of dig out of, I'm not going to say a hole like it's but they're going to have to put in a little more energy perhaps to get back in the game. Like, that's a risk as well. But there's also the risk of what we've seen is giving up big leads in the fourth quarter could be due to fatigue. you know. And Sim, shout out to Sim, who brought up a point on one of the posts on Twitter, well, now X, that a lot of times when teams step it up defensively, if you're not familiar with each other, now you start thinking. Now and if things aren't coming natural, now you're making mistakes. Things are not flowing. So chemistry can still be an issue down the stretch as well. And but anyway, just your thoughts on Thibodeau and these super tight rotations, and what would you like him to do until reinforcements come? Jeff and then Tone.
Yeah, he's caught between the rock and the hard place there. I don't know that there's a good answer, but I think the Indiana game was kind of telling, and they had two guys, that Furphy and somebody else, both played about 9 or 10 minutes. And neither one of them was particularly good or effective in their time on the floor. But when I guess to say they did their job, they didn't get blown out in those minutes, and they kept it close and they kept it tight, and then they were much fresher down the stretch. So we saw evidence that maybe you do need to, suck it up for 3 or 4 minutes, and even if it means you're worse, you know, and just do it. But the thing about it is, the way our rotation works, they're usually in the game with 2 or 3 starters anyway. So I think you can stagger it and kind of have it where there's, I don't want to say protection, that's not the right word, but at least limit the damage, so to speak, while you have to deal with these inexperienced players. But I, I've always been a Thibodeau supporter, but I find it really hard to believe that Tyler Kolek only deserved 2 minutes against the Pacers. That is to me, that's a questionable decision. And look, you know, he's human. We all make mistakes. I don't like to second guess. Coaches typically, you know, micromanage their. I mean, they have a tough job, but the rotations, especially in the Indiana game, were. I mean, he just trotted our starters out there until their legs fell off, and you can't be doing that in game 9. I mean, it's a long season, and you're going to have to, you know, we don't know how long it's going to be until our guys are healthy again. So at this time, I think, you know, and if we're not seeing the results it'd be one thing if we were playing them all this and we were winning the games, but we're not. I mean, you know, what are you going to lose by more? You know, so from that standpoint, I think, you know, you certainly have to give it a try and open it up a little bit, and then play it by ear. If it's not working in that game,
Right.
then you can certainly, okay, we've got to do something else. But, you know, I think at least the other night, I think they needed to give Kolek more than 2 minutes.
Yeah. Tone, what's your take?
It was 90. It was 96 seconds. Just to be precise, he didn't even get a full 2 minutes. Oh, you mind if I put a comment up, Queen?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yo, Rock. He said, like he said on my show, if the Pacers can play 10 players, then we should be able to play 10 players. I don't even think it has to be 10,
I don't even
but
think it
you know what I mean. But I think that's a great point. I mean, these guys just lost 2 rotational pieces for the year. You know what I mean, and they playing guys that weren't meant to be in a rotation against us. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason that, like both of you said, you can't figure out a way to put some spot duties on, surround these guys with you know what I mean. If it is Kolek, you know what I mean, surround them with defenders. You got to do it with Brunson. You know what I mean? Like, let's just be honest. You know what I mean? If it's let's see what Huck Porty can do. Whether it's alongside Cat to just give another look and see how that looks for a 2-minute stretch. If it works, you rock with it. If it don't, you switch it out. You know what I mean? Or he could give Cat a breather. Whatever it is, there's enough space that you could play guys 2-4 minutes in a quarter and make sure that we're fresh enough down the stretch to close out games.
Yeah. I definitely agree. Just by minutes. I think that's what the Pacers did with the guys they put in. Not really expecting, you know, if they score, great. You know, if they give you some counting stats, that's like extra. But at minimum, just buy minutes so that in the fourth quarter your guys are fresher. Now, if we had a full rotation, I wouldn't be worried. Like the coolest. Shout out to the coolest, always rocking with us. That's what I've been saying for 2 to 3 years. Play your bench. That's not. To me, you have your rotation. You have your rotation, and if your rotation is healthy, you already have your bench players. I'm not. I wouldn't extend it any further than that. I think this is a situation where you're going thin, and you don't have your regular rotation guys, right? Precious is out, Mitch is out. These are guys that would be in the rotation. I hate to keep talking about Shamit, but he would be, um, in the rotation. Your rotation guys are out. When your rotation guys are out, you got to roll with your situational guys. And it just so happens, unfortunately, that our situational guys are rookies. That's just how the CBA ball has bounced. You know,
But I
that
don't think
our
this is.
situational guys are. Go ahead. What you gonna say, Tom?
No, I was gonna say I don't think this is like years past where I think when the fan base was screaming play the kids, they wanted all the kids to play. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like
right, right,
collectively. And I think here we have an opportunity that these guys don't gotta play collectively. You know what I mean? They can play individual spot minutes,
right.
and
Correct,
that can change from the game to game who it
correct,
is, and you know what I
correct.
mean. So I think that's where the difference lies between like now where we are and where we were 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and maybe that changes. Maybe that change. Even Sims. Well, I mean, Sims played 9 minutes. That's kind of what Sims has been getting. Um, 9, 10 minutes, but you might want to expand his minutes as well. You know, you might want to expand his minutes as well. This is what we're talking about. I think Jeff and I was alluding to the risk either way, like being
Mhm.
between a rock and a hard place where you're extending minutes of guys who are not giving you much, right? Um, there's a downfall to that as well. But I just think that at this point, you just have to live with the results. And I think, you know, I'm not saying I agree, but it seems like his thought process is, do I want to go with a tired 6 or a spry 10 who who may not be experienced, you know? That's that this is his thought process. Me personally, again, I would go with the spot minutes, hoping I can get away with it, hoping it's not going to be like a lead loss or a momentum shift, and that we'll be able to, be fresh enough in the fourth quarter to um overcome it. Anything else on that, or just in Tibbs overall that you've seen in the beginning of the season?
Well, I think with a 4 games and 6 night stretch, it's really going to be incumbent upon him to rely
Correct.
on the bench a little bit more,
Yep.
even if that's not his preference, and even if it ends up costing us a game in that stretch. I think you know you don't want to ride those guys too hard. And they look, those that core six have been really good for the most part. I mean, Bridges and Deuce have had some up and down, but for the most part, I think that the performance out of our top six guys has been good. Brunson has had his rough spots too, but again, by and large, I think that the top six players have been doing a good job. We've had a lot of games where all of them are in double figures, and there's a lot of games where there's a lot of assists and not very many turnovers, and so you've seen, you know, offensively at any rate, you've seen good things. On defense, I don't I don't really know what's going on there yet, but we'll have to figure that part out. But I think heading into this stretch, we're gonna have to use the bench a little bit more.
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely, no doubt about it. Um, Tone, because I
So
want to get into, yeah,
just I concur. I mean, especially with this stretch coming up, how vital it is. Hopefully, during this stretch, maybe we see Cam, maybe we see Precious by the end of this stretch. That could help a lot. Um, but yeah, I still think Tibbs he's got to. Somebody just put in the chat, East Blue, playing six guys in November is crazy. You know what I mean? Like,
playing 6 guys at any time,
I mean,
at any
yes, yeah, anytime,
at
and,
any time.
and yeah, we went through this before where guys stepped up by necessity last year. You know what I mean? Like Precious did not have the role for us that he ultimately had before Julius Randle went down. You know what I mean? Like he was getting pulled after 2 minutes. You know what I mean? One bad play. You know what I mean? And then next year, you know, this guy had a stretch where he was leading us in minutes. He was playing 40 minutes a game. You know what I mean? So you felt well enough to do that with Precious at that time. You know what I mean? Like you said, even if it is Sims, giving Sims extended minutes, it's not my preference, but
Yeah.
if that's the guy you trust, and it's gonna keep Cat off the floor for an extra 2 to 3 minutes, make him a little bit fresher. At the end of the game, I say you got to figure something out.
I don't even think the issue is Cat. Cat only playing half the game anyway.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. I was just
you know, I'm being facetious in terms of the defensive end. You know what I mean? So he looks super fresh on the offensive end. I don't get the sense that he's tired offensively at all.
But I mean,
Um,
maybe he could use some of that extra energy defensively. You know what I mean? Like, or you know what I mean? Get an extra rebound or so. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's so
yeah, perhaps. Yeah, perhaps. But I will say that there's a difference between um not knowing what you have in a veteran until you give them the minutes until then a rookie where you just know is going to be up and down, which is fine. I just think right now you have to live with the results, or maybe you throw Matt Ryan in there.
yep.
Um,
I was just gonna say
Now
that.
somebody said in the chat that our issue hasn't been offense, our issue has been defense, and they were talking as far as Kolick was concerned. Like Kolick is not going to help us defensively, but here we're talking about just buying minutes. Um, just so our guys can be fresh in the fourth quarter. And I think with Kolick, even if he makes his share of defensive mistakes, you're still buying minutes with Brunson so that he can be fresher in that fourth quarter.
And what I will say about Kolick, he has his limitations, obviously defensively, but he has a lot of pluses offensively. And his shooting has been phenomenal. Albeit a small sample size, but he's knocking down a three at a great percentage. He's not gun shy, so he doesn't hesitate
Yeah, he's
to
very
shoot it
confident.
if he's open. You know what I mean? So, and what else he could potentially do is maybe find some shots for a guy like Mikal who's having a bad night that night, or Brit or McBride who was having a bad night that night. So he may be able to get these guys a open look, you know what I mean, as opposed to a stressed look, especially when they're having a bad shooting night. You know what I mean? So I think there's, like you said, Queen, pros and cons. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But it's gonna be that way for whoever you pick. You know what I mean? Whoever gets the minute. So you try to use the strengths, utilize their strength, and
right.
protect their weaknesses.
Yeah. No doubt about it. Let's move on to the offense, something that's going well, and then we'll switch over um, to the defense. The Knicks are offense is not the problem for the Knicks. It's just not. The Knicks are, like I said in the intro, top five in field goal percentage, top five in 3-point percentage, top five in free throw percentage, top five in offensive rating. Like the offense is not an issue um, for the Knicks, and I think there's even more potential for the offense. I don't think we take advantage of the Brunson Towns pick and roll as much as we can. I think there's more to be had from that, including the involvement of Bridges and OG off the pick and roll, depending on how teams defend it. I think there's more to be had from Mikal Bridges in our offense, though I don't think we're gonna see that until our bench is back, because you can't even run him with the bench because there is no bench, right? There's like three starters and OG and Bridges and OG. There's really three starters, excuse me, with Miles McBride and Sims at times. So it's not like he's just out there with just bench players where he can be that featured player. So there's more to be had for our offense. but I'm interested in your thoughts on the offense. And I do want to put this comment up, if you, while you're answering, if you want to address this, you can. And that's Keith Turner. I told people Tibbs was going to still run his 1865 offense. We can't win a championship with Tibbs. I'll tell you this, Keith Turner. If your narrative is still that Tibbs' offense is archaic, I don't think you're watching the games. I don't think you're watching the games. Like, the Knicks are running a modern offense now. Matter of fact, the Knicks were running a modern offense after the trade of Quickly and RJ Barrett, when we had Hartenstein and Devo in the lineup, with player movement and ball movement. So this is not an archaic offense. The Knicks have the top 5 offense. The problem with the Knicks right now is the defense, the chemistry, the bench. It's not the offense. So I think, not just for you, Keith Turner, and I appreciate you rocking with us, but for all of the fan base, when things change, the narrative has to change. Like, you can't just keep saying the same things when you can look and see statistically and from what you're seeing in the game, you have a center shooting threes. You have a center driving through the lane. You're running, pick and rolls. You got 3-point shooters in the corner. You look at any NBA offense, you're not gonna look at the Knicks and be like, oh, they're running an offense out of the 90s. Like, it's just not true anymore. It's just not. Since Tom Thibodeau has been here, our offense has been better than our like, every year we've been a top 5 to 10 offense. We can't say that about our defense since Tom Thibodeau has been here, and he's known for his defense. Our offense has been consistently better than our defense since Tom Thibodeau has been here, right? That's just the facts of the matter. But what are you guys seeing from our offense? Yeah. Let's just start there. Jeff, we'll start with you, and then we'll go with Tom.
Well, the offense has been good, but I really would love to have the depth back, because I think that this offense is really designed to play more up tempo and push the pace with the talent that we have, especially in the starting unit. But
Right.
when you only play 6.5 guys, it's really tough to, expect them to
Right.
play at that breakneck pace and last the whole game. I mean, that's not reasonable. But I think in the idealized version of this team, when you have a healthy campaign, a healthy Mitchell Robinson, a healthy Precious Achua, you can have some minutes where you can play up tempo and play fast. And I mean, our pace is one of the slowest in the NBA. And that's one of the reasons why I think that you see the attempts are down. I mean, comparatively, because we just don't get as many shots up. And the other thing is, we don't offensive rebound like we used to. And part of that is that we make more shots, so there aren't as many offensive rebounds to go around. But part of that is the personnel that we have. I mean, Isaiah Hartenstein and Mitchell Robinson were both elite on that end of the floor, and in that stat last year. And we haven't, and Cat's done a good job on the boards, but as far as the offensive glass is concerned, he's just not that kind of player. And when he's playing out at the 3-point line, that's kind of understandable too, right? It's tough to rebound when you're out above the break or whatever. But so I'm not necessarily criticizing him for that, but I'm just saying that I think in a future time, when we have more bodies, that may be a way for this offense to get even better. And I think it's going to help Jalen Brunson. I think it's going to help Josh Hart, and I think it's going to help Bridges and Anunoby too. Just because I think it fits in well with their skill set. But when you score 127 points, the offense is doing its job. like we've got to find a way to get stops.
Yeah, Tone.
I mean, good job, Jeff. Because there's not much more to say. The pace is what's killing us. One of the things that I was worried about, with all the changes coming aboard, was how much does it change our identity? and what we relied upon last year as far as the shot attempts and out out attempting shots with other teams. I think that really kept us in a lot of games. A lot of that had to do with our offensive rebounding because we didn't shoot the ball well as well. And that was one of the not arguments, but one of the back and forths we had before the season. A lot of people would say, "Oh, because we're gonna shoot so much better that it's gonna lower those offensive rebounds attempts." And yeah, we are. Like you said, we're shooting great in every statistical category, but the attempts, we gotta get shots up quicker. You know what I mean? Up sooner, more shots. We see that the teams that we've blown out, we did what Boston did to us in those games. We had 20 more shot attempts than them. We had 10 plus more 3-point attempts than them. And the teams that we lost to, what I mean, it's been the opposite. The Boston game, the Atlanta game, this Pacer game. They're either out shooting us by 10 plus threes or 20 plus shot attempts. So somehow we got to figure out how to get a faster pace, not sacrifice good shots, you know what I mean, but take quicker shots. A lot of times this year so far we've seen the ball get passed with the shot clock about to expire and somebody got to heave up a shot. That means that's horrible pace. You know what I mean? You wait until the last second of the shot clock to attempt a miracle. So that and again, the offense has been great. So my only other gripe would be figuring out how to get guys like Mikal easy shots. OG's been a lot more assertive, but yeah, get him a couple easy ones too. You know what I mean? Like if we could figure out two easy attempts for those two guys, not the leak outs, not the fast breaks, but something that we could have in our staple and as our bread and butter. That's 4 more points a game for those guys and minimal work. So, but I think that'll come with time. You know what I mean?
Right.
That'll come with time as we get more accustomed to each other.
Yeah. Um, the thing with Mikel, I know a lot of fans are on him defensively. He has the toughest assignment, man. He's 6'6", chasing around 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2" guards, navigating, over screens. Um, it, you know, there's a stat. I don't know if the NBA keeps it, but somebody keeps it like miles run per game. he gotta he gotta be he has to be up there. And I think it takes a lot, out of you. Um, do you think we should lower our expectations of him on the offensive end, given how much energy he's putting out defending the point of attack
You said lower the expectation.
of him offense?
Um, I think at times he needs help, and I don't mean that as a slight. Number one, there's an argument that could be made that this is a new role for him because he might have had that assignment at times on Phoenix, but that I don't think that was his assignment night in and night out. And I also don't think he was necessarily assigned as many smaller guards as he is currently. You know what I mean? So that in itself, like you said, it's a tough assignment. Night in and night out, unless the main guy, like, yeah, we got OG there as well. You know what I mean? But he's gonna guard the bigger threats. You know what I mean? The Siakams on the Pacers
Right.
and things of that nature. So night in and night out, his job is super tough. So I think that is an adjustment. And then just look at what his role was last year of being a lead offensive guy, which I think arguably automatically takes defensive responsibilities away from you when when your job is to get get buckets. So I think he even reverted last year to less of a defensive role, you know what I mean, or focal point. Um, and now he's like this is his role. So he probably has the biggest adjustment out of everybody in the starting lineup.
Right.
Cat is came in, do what you do. You know what I mean? Josh Hart, he's been told for 2 years, just be Josh Hart, do what you do. You know what I mean? OG, it might have asked him for a couple extra things, you know what I mean? Be more assertive, aggressive, whatever. But it's still, you know what I mean, play within your zone. Mikal's probably had the biggest adjustment from anybody. So I'm gonna give him grace.
Mhm.
Um, but I think to offset some of that responsibility he has defensively, we should be obligated to find him some easy looks offensively. Find him some moments where he could let loose and kind of find his way offensively because it's got to be hard chasing everybody around and then you know exerting the same amount of energy offensively, if not more.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I, I don't really think we see the real Mikal until that second unit is back and he's able to run with it. I just don't see him, he's going to be relegated to a catch and shoot guy in that first unit. Even when it comes to secondary ball handlers, Tony and I was talking earlier, is Josh Hart who's handling the ball other than when Brunson doesn't handle it in terms of bringing it up the court, initiating the offense, and not Mikal Bridges.
And even in that, Queen, and this is not a knock on Hart because I think he's been playing well and he's gotten better over the season at this. But when he's that primary ball handler, his first initiative is look for a fast break, try to initiate some type of break, which is great. But his next initiative is all right, get it back to Brunson.
Get it back to Brunson.
So
Right,
you know what I
right,
mean? Like so
right,
so
right,
even in that, it's like, all right, find a secondary option after you if the break is not there, where you're looking for Cat, where you're looking for Mikal, where you're looking for, you know what I mean? Because if I see that night in, night out, that's got to be on the scouting report. All right, he's gonna attack when he gets that rebound. You know what I mean? Stop the fast break, but you know that ball is going right to Brunson if that fast break is stopped.
right, right. And I actually thought Mikal Bridges would be that secondary ball handler, but it's possible. Listen, I'm chasing around these small guards, and I'm gonna be bringing the ball up the court on the on the offensive end as well. You know, M- maybe, perhaps it's energy management. I'm
If
I'm I'm not sure.
if that's the case, though, man, Mikal, you gotta hit them shots. You can't be
Right,
0 for 4. You can't be 0 for 6. You know what I mean? From
right,
3. But
right.
but he started the season well. So you know what I mean? Again, I'm gonna give him some grace. He hit a little rough patch
Yeah,
from the 3.
but earlier in the season, we had a semblance of a second unit, and he was
That's
in there
true.
with
That's
them,
when
and
he
you could see
thrived.
how they were featuring him.
That's the fact.
They were featuring it like it would. I think it was McBride, Cam, and Mikhail Sims, and maybe another, another starter. But there's a few games where I thought they were featuring Mikhail in that, in that second unit, and hopefully we get back to that when Precious is back, when Cam is back, when hopefully Ryan is incorporated, you know, into the rotation. Let me read the super chat. Salute to Paris Duggar. Appreciate the super chat. Tibbs is destroying the season. Wow. The team isn't even interesting to watch when you show there's no early season development of bench NBA players. Why do other teams use guys we would never use to beat us? Well, who are the guys that which bench guys beat us? And at least against Indiana. Um, and if you're talking about Atlanta's rookie, he was the number one pick in the draft. So you can't really compare that to Daddy A and Kolick and and Harkporty. Like these guys, I mean the Atlanta guy, he was the number one pick. And in the Indiana game, those guys their rookies or I don't even know if they were rookies, whoever they were, came in and spelled and to keep their other guys fresh. I don't remember those guys coming in and tearing it up and giving them some counting stats, but they did what they were supposed to do, still some minutes, so that their guys can be fresh down the stretch. And they were. And the Knicks, I don't think this is about developing a bench. The Knicks are championship contending team. You got to get a bench, you know. But I will agree, um, this is where we are. So you got to try to steal minutes. I will agree with that. This is where you are. You got to you got to steal minutes. But I don't agree with the Knicks should be trying to develop a bench. You go out there and you get a bench. You get players who can play on your bench, um, and contribute.
I mean, both things can be true. Ideally, go get them, but like you said, under the circumstances, like you think about, I think about at least 2 games this season where it looked like, actually exactly 2 games this season where it looked like Josh Hart was gonna be hampered coming into the next game, potentially missing sometimes. Luckily, you know what I mean. He hasn't missed a game. Um, McBride, same thing. Questionable. Luckily, he's playing through it. So that's the other part of it. Like we got guys that, you know what I mean. If Precious and you know what I mean, if these Payne was available, they might have sat out some of these other games.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
man,
No,
they
you're
might be
right.
fighting through some things too. So I mean, it's a fine line. We got to figure it out. Spot minutes, like that's the thing. Though. Like you
5 minutes.
said,
Five
spot
minutes.
minutes.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Shout out to Chuck D. Appreciate
Salute.
you dropping by. Key this season, stay conditioned, focused. Ramp up the pace, believe in Tibbs, be ready to turn up in January through March. We're a 53 to 29 team with deep potential. Three-fourths of the team will be wrecked by injury. Way the league plays today. NBA is the new NFL, and the injuries are just coming in the NBA. Chet Holmgren is out now,
Hmm.
8 to 10 weeks. Durant is out two weeks. Aaron Gordon is
Tatum,
out. Huh?
did Tatum get hurt too?
Brown just came back. I know Jalen Brown was out. I don't know how long. He just came back. Aaron Gordon is out
Mm.
for a few games. Kuzma just came back um today. It's been crazy. Um, the Knicks so far, we got Precious with the hamstring and Cam too,
Hmm.
you know, um, with the hamstring. Shout out to you, Chuck D. He said believe in Tibbs. I'm not and some guys have been very consistent. Some fans have been very consistent with this. I'm not gonna go up and down with Tibbs. You either believe in him or you don't. And that doesn't mean I agree with everything
Hmm.
he does. Like in this case, I get where he's at between a rock and a hard place. I would go for the spot minutes. Um, and I'm not going up and down with the team either. When we look good, oh, he's great. That was just great. Oh, we go win a championship, and then we lose 2 in a row. Oh my goodness, what are we doing? This is our team. There's a lot of comparing this team with last year's team. And I just think we just have to move on. This is not last year's team. And it's not going to be last year's team. Like we're going to have to find our way to win basketball games. And the mold of last year's team is not the only mold that can win a championship. right? There's been many different types of teams playing different ways that have won championships. We have to figure out our way with this team. And it's a work in progress. Um Go ahead,
I
Tone.
mean, I just feel like some of those primary principles are gonna have to be in effect still. You mentioned championship teams who didn't have um
Rim.
a rim protector per se, right? Obviously Denver's the most probably prominent team that comes to mind, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean. Maybe the Celtics, if you know what I mean, how you want to look at them,
Mhm.
KP in and out, whatever.
Right.
Um, but for Denver, like one of the state, they don't have rim protection, but you know what they have? Rebounding, like strong, effective rebound. You know what I mean? So again,
Yeah. Yeah.
this is a staple of Tibbs and things that he's preached in his tenure. So maybe we could do it without the rim protection, but we're gonna have to double down on the rebounding. You
No,
know what I mean?
no, no, listen. We ain't winning. You're not winning a championship if you don't have some semblance of a defense, and you're not winning a championship if you can't rebound the ball and in possessions for the other team. It's just not happening. It's not happening. So I agree with you, Tone. There's there's certain things that's going on with this team that has to be shored up, but I'm not sure. uh, Thibodeau, and it's going back to Tibbs. What's the best defense for this team? I know you want a rim protector back there, but this particular team doesn't have one. Figure it out. How this team can be a good defensive team without a rim protector, because there have been teams throughout the history of the NBA who have been good defensive teams without a rim protector. Figure it out.
And two things. One, you also can't do that, not protect the rim, and have issues on the perimeter guarding
Correct.
the 3 pointer,
Correct.
leaving them open.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But last year, I don't know if this goes back in years past, but last year we was having the same discussion where early in the year where you know what I mean. Points in the paint, we were horrible giving up points in the paint, and we were horrible guarding the 3 pointer. So it may just be something that with Tibbs develops over, you know what I mean, throughout the course of the year. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
emphasis gets put more on certain things. He got to work out his who works well with who needs to do what. You know what I mean? But I think I'm not gonna shoot it out the window that we don't figure that part out.
Hmm.
Especially how important it's always been to Tibbs. Like he's always preached the rim protection. You know what I mean? I get we don't have a guy.
Right. But the thing about it is, think about what Tibbs has done offensively. He figured out this particular team has to play the volume game. Team last year,
Hmm.
we just don't have the efficiency. We got to play the volume game. Figure it out defensively. Now, rebounding has to be a part of it, and that's not what I'm saying. But figure out how to have a good defense without a rim protector. Figure it out. Because the reality is Towns is not a rim protector. He never has been. And to think that in year 10 he's gonna be a rim protector, I think that's just fantasy. It's just not gonna happen. So, and then Mitchell Robinson is not coming back until you know where we would. So if you're basically saying we're just gonna wait for Mitchell Robinson to come back in January, and we're just gonna let our defense be what it is right now until like, come on.
I'm with you, and pressures is only gonna help, but so much. You know what I mean? In that area. So I agree that there's gonna be some things that we gotta figure out, or Tibbs is gonna have to figure out. But I don't have an answer. You know what I mean? Like I watching it, I don't know what that's gonna be
Right.
other than effort. You know what I mean? Like just
And
effort.
and
Don't
and, and
foul
more
and make the
players
shots
too.
and make the shot tough.
Right. And having a and having more players play, because
Mhm.
you can't defensive intensity, hitting every rotation, not giving up many with 6 guys. Like, like, you just can't do it. That's just not sustainable. So, the more players we have that know what they're doing, in the rotation, like, that's gonna help. Jeff, anything you want to add?
First of all, shout out to the rhyme animal, one of the great artists and thinkers of our time. Somebody I've always looked up to since I was a teenager. So it's really kind of a cool thing for me to have him be part of this discourse. But I'm wondering. I want y'all's opinion on both of these things. That I'll give them in turn. But I'm wondering if there's an over reliance on the drop coverage, just because that's what we've
Correct.
done for so long,
Yep.
as because we have had a Hartenstein and we have had a Mitch, and I'm wondering if the scheme change that you've been talking about is maybe moving away from that, since we don't, Karl Anthony Towns is not going to approximate that in any way, shape, or form. So maybe use some other coverage schemes to and try and minimize that a little bit. And I know that's kind of like, for Tibbs, that's his Linus blanket, right? That drop coverage is, but if it's not working, maybe that's something that we need to lessen a little bit. And the other thing I wanted to ask y'all about is, do you think that moving Deuce into the starting lineup in Josh Hart's place would do a little bit to alleviate some of the burden on Bridges, whereas maybe he could take that smaller guard and get Bridges on someone who's a little bit taller and maybe not having to run around quite as much, and not for the
Right.
entire game, but
Right.
if you can steal, we're talking about stealing minutes, right? If you
Right.
can
Right.
steal 5 minutes in the game because Deuce is in that role, and you bring Josh Hart off the bench, and we're not limiting Josh Hart's minutes. I love the job that Josh Hart has done. I'm just curious to see that if maybe that combination in the starting lineup might give Bridges a little bit of a breather at the start and kind of
Right.
allow him maybe to work on his offense a little bit more. And you're not going to entrust McBride really with that secondary ball handler role. So that would put Bridges in that spot and give him more chances with touches at the rim and touches with the ball rather than he's getting right now with Hart in there, because Hart seems to be the guy who's like Tony said, he's an initiator a lot of times when Brunson's not. And so maybe if you have Deuce in that role instead, then maybe that alleviates some of the congestion there. What do you guys think?
I like it for the reasons you said. I guess if Josh gets the same, minutes, the rebounding will be okay, because that's really the concern. But if he's getting the same amount of minutes, I guess the rebounding would be okay.
Um, uh, initially, when we were talking about what the starting lineup should be, I like Deuce was my choice. To start, but I've actually come to go against that. I like your thought process of it, and it brings more shooting. It brings more deep more pointed attack defense. So I it would definitely help. But I would just put him in. I would bring him in first. I would even potentially bring him in for Brunson. Because what that does is it alleviates some defensive pressure on Mikal, like you said, but it also opens up some offensive responsibility in the non-Brunson minutes. You know what I mean? And then you can even go with Josh Hart coming out for Brunson to go back to what would have been, like you said, that starting lineup. You know what I mean? So, but I like that option a little bit better. You know what I mean? Because it takes away from some defensive responsibility from Bridges, but it also gives him a open reign to kind of lead some offensively. for a few minutes, and then 2-3 minutes later you could bring Brunson right back in, then bring Josh Hart out, and that way. And then my only other concern with starting not starting Josh Hart is he we already have a problem with bench production, right? With Josh Hart being our primary bench production. Is that gonna increase with Josh Hart coming off the bench? Is it gonna decrease with Josh Hart coming off the bench? You know what I mean? Like, so you know what I mean? Like, at least we have now. McBride could have a bad game at any given night off the bench, and that hurts us. But he's still been pretty consistent. We know what we're gonna get from him night out, night in, night out off the bench. I don't necessarily want to tinker with that unless I know I'm good. I have somebody who could fill his void.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I don't know if Hart is gonna do that. It's offensively, he's gonna do everything else. You know what I mean? And he might still have the same amount of points off the bench, but you really just don't know. So I just like what he's our only option of scoring off, like bench scoring. It's kind of risky taking that away and then relegating that to a Josh Hart. Now maybe with Cam there, with Precious there, and Josh Hart, maybe that looks a little bit different. And you know what I mean? Maybe collectively they could give you more than what Deuce was given as bench production.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my thoughts on it. But I was the one from the beginning, like, yo, we should start Deuce. I love the way he plays with Brunson. It's another defender, and I agree. It'll take a little bit of responsibility off Bridges, where now you can pick and choose. It don't have to be the primary guy. It might be a bigger threat that he's better suited facing than a shorter guard or whatever the case.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Let's get into some of the trends of the season, and I'm interested if you think what trends are you seeing that you think this is just a mirage. This is gonna this is gonna get better for whatever reason. And what trends are you seeing that you're concerned about? Like if we're trying to be a championship contending team, like
Hmm.
this trend right here is a concern. Jeff?
Well, I think that one of the hidden stats of that Indiana game was that we had 13 turnovers and they only had 6.
Mm.
And so part, part of the identity of last year's team was we were really good at taking care of the ball and we were really good at offensive rebounding. And those two things combined gave us all those extra possessions. But when you have -7 in the turnover range, even if you beat them on the offensive glass, and we had like a +4, I think, on the offensive glass, but not anything monumental. I think that the combination of those things showed that we had ended up with 5 less shots than they did. And so I think even though we're efficient, I think if we're losing the possession battle, if we're not getting +5 possessions, +10 possessions, I think long term that hurts us, because I just think that that's one of the things that was so successful for Tom Thibodeau's teams in the last couple of years, and so that's one of the things that I'm kind of concerned about. Moving forward, that's really the trend that I want to see. Let's take care of the ball, maximize our possessions, and work on rebounding as a whole is definitely something I'm keeping an eye on. I think that Towns has been very good, and Josh Hart has been very good, and those two have been very good. I think that's all.
Yeah, that's true. I saw a concerted effort. Now I don't know if if they listened to the show and said, listen, we need gang rebounding, because Mikal Bridges had 7 rebounds yesterday. He came out with 3 right off the bat. OG, I don't know if OG had 6. He might have had 4 or 5. I just feel like OG has to do a better job on the defensive boards. I'm with you, Jeff. That's a trend that I'm keeping an eye on. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, that we out rebounded the Pacers. We did. The Pacers, I think, was 39 to
Mhm.
32, and I believe Milwaukee as well. Like you cannot give up second and third and fourth opportunities to any team, particularly when we're no longer a second chance point team. Though I have to say, we're not that bad in second points. I think we're ninth, which I
Uh,
was shocked.
We're not bad in turnovers either, I don't think. Aren't we
Yeah,
averaging about 9,
yeah.
which is
Um,
relatively low for the
yeah. I think we've had like a 15 turnover game, which was an aberration, and then the game Jeff was just talking about too. But for the most part, we've been okay. Um, but second points, we're ninth. I'm shocked. Like I'm just shocked because I've just been giving up on second chance points. Just looking at our team like that's not going to be our bag. You know?
No, I mean, I noticed that all year as well. Like we still, that's still a focal point of ours.
Hmm.
Obviously, more makes is less opportunities, but the percentage, and that was one thing you mentioned
Right.
to me, the
Right.
percentage of offensive rebounds is still high.
Right.
You know what I mean? So the ones that are available, they're getting.
Which is
But
great. Which is
we got
great.
to figure out how, if that's not going to lead to the second, the more possessions, what is? You know what I
Right.
mean? What's hindering and hindering us in that area?
Right. I
Well, I
wasn't even
think too
aware
that
that we were. I'm sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
Well, I think too, it makes a difference that the players that we have who do get the offensive rebounds are better shooters and are more willing shooters at the rim. I think when
Mhm.
you have a Mitchell Robinson, if he's not going to dunk the ball, he was going to pass it out. Isaiah Hartenstein didn't really; he got a ton of offensive rebounds. He was always looking to kick it out. And
Correct.
Precious Achua shoots like 10% at the rim, it feel like, on his offensive rebound. I know that's not the accurate, but it felt like he missed a lot of easy ones
Right.
inside. And I think
Right.
we're not getting as many offensive rebounds, but when we do, the ball's in the hands of people who are better finishers at the rim. And so that's why we're still in the top 10, I think.
Correct. Because to your point, Jeff, our offensive rebounding percentage is 17, but we're converting. And last year, and again, last year was an entire season, and we're just comparing it against the first 9 games. But last year we were number one in offensive rebounding um, percentage,
What
and
what was the percentage
like
last year?
33%.
33. That's crazy.
And we were second points, we were ninth. So we're still holding ninth, right? Around ninth in second points, but on less percentage. So to your point, Jeff, we're converting um, we're converting them. The few that we do, that we do get, we're converting them. And it's good to see Towns on the offensive boards. Like he really makes a concerted effort, whether it's his miss or the miss of a teammate to get us to get us second chance points. So one of the trends we're talking about, getting back to the trends, is turnovers. We got to continue to keep that low. Rebounding is a trend I'm keeping an eye on as well. We nowhere near a championship contending team if you can't end the other team's possessions. Any other trends that you're concerned about, or that you feel like it's a trend right now, but it's just a matter of time before it gets better?
You're muted, Tone.
A positive trend in the last couple of games has been the assists and the assist numbers compared to made field goals, right? They've been relatively high. Even in the loss, I think we had a good assist number, um, relatively to the amount of field goals made. So that's just signs of the offense continuing to click and continue to get better. not only do I think it's gonna continue the trend, but I think it's gonna get better. As far as our assist numbers, we started off real bad,
Mhm.
with the assist numbers, but the past 3 games, I think, you know what I mean. Like they've been relatively high, especially compared to made field goals and how many were assisted upon. So that's one positive trend. Um, and obviously the percentages, though, like I think that continues. Obviously, I don't think Cat is gonna be in the 50 plus range
For
all
free,
year.
right?
50,
You,
60, 90.
you know what I mean? But I think the numbers, we're gonna stay at the top 5 in the league in both, all three, free throws, 3 pointers, and field goals. Um,
Right. Yeah, one I'm concerned about, not concerned about. One that I think will get better is the bench scoring. Right now it's 30th in the league, 12.4 bench points. Like I'm like, that's it.
and Tennis McBride.
Right.
Yeah, true.
Right. I think that gets better as we get healthier, right? So I'm not super concerned about the bench the bench scoring. And of course, with my condition, I lost the one that I was concerned about that I had right on the
Fourth quarter scoring.
um
Brunson was like 30th in the league in fourth quarter points,
mhm.
and the Knicks are second worst in net rating in the fourth quarter.
Wow. Wow.
So it's like we're the game. We're blowing games that we could win down the stretch. Other than that first game, you know what I mean, where it was over after the first quarter. You know what I mean,
Right.
but yeah, we and
But do you
that.
think that gets better, or are you concerned that that's something that may continue?
I mean, I think I was gonna ask, is this a direct correlation to 6-man rotation, if you want to label it that way, or just us not being at full strength? With what I mean, because I think at full strength it will get better.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I don't know until then. You know what I mean? I don't know until we got at least Precious and Cam back to contribute with Deuce. You know what I mean? I don't know how much better it can get, because I think we look gassed. We definitely look gassed last game for sure. You know what I mean? Not Indiana, the Atlanta game, we looked gassed down
13 to
the
1
stretch.
run down the stretch there.
You know what I mean?
Last
So
minute.
Yeah.
uh, it has to be a direct correlation. No.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. I think so, but I also think that that's going to get better um when we're at full strength. I do think that'll I do think that um will get better. Um I think the rebounding gets better. I think the bench scoring gets better. I don't think the rim protection gets well. I think the rim protection gets better in January when Mitchell Robinson comes, but we can't expect Mitchell Robinson to just turn around the defense by himself. You know what I mean? So the other guys are still going to have to do their jobs. And then you have Robinson back there. That's great. That's great. Um, but we can't just be waiting until January. We got to do what we can do now to shore up the defense. And then when Mitchell Robinson comes, he gives us that extra rim protection. That's going to help, you know, um, for sure.
I
Um,
agree. I agree with you on the reliance. My
mhm,
only pushback is Mitchell Robinson's presence is a deterrent. You know what I mean? Like Cat he's not a shot blocker,
mm,
but I mean he's not a rim protector, but he can block shots. The
mhm,
the difference is nobody's scared to go in and attack the rim with
right,
Cat down there, right?
right,
Mitchell Robinson's presence alone, whether he blocks the shot or even attempts to, can be a deterrent. Just his presence. You know what I mean? So even you know what I mean, even though like you said, it's gonna take some him to get back in game shape and things of that nature. It's only a few people in the league that's gonna go ahead and test him right out the gate. You know what I mean? The Edwards, the
I'm not
John
denying
Morants, and
that.
all that.
I'm not denying that. I'm just saying that the Knicks can't just be waiting on Mitchell Robinson to come back. That's all I'm saying. Like,
Yeah, you got to treat him like a lottery ticket at this point. You know what I mean? If he comes back and he hits, great, but you can't plan on paying your rent with a lottery ticket. You know, you gotta have some regular income coming in, and I I love Robinson, and I would love to see him come back and be healthy, but right now first of all, it's so far off. You know what I mean? That's a lot of games between now and January, and
no doubt.
I feel like he's getting reevaluated in January too. I don't feel like when they say January that he's going to be like for sure January 1 he's back to full contact. I don't think that's the case either. So,
And the other thing that sucks is we've always had some remnants of a replacement for what he does every year in the past. And this is the 1 year
We don't.
we don't. I agree. We can't just be waiting. Like, but in the meantime, I mean, that's on Tibbs and the front office or whatever. Like, they got to figure out how to, because that's you talk about glaring that stat that you said about Cat 91.4% at the rim. Like that, we can't. That can't be that has to change. You know what I mean? Even if it means get Cat out the paint and put somebody else there,
or schematically, or just changing it schematically, because there's times, I swear, there's times it seems like when they come in the paint, Cat taking a step back.
he's jumping out the way and getting fouled, or getting a foul call.
I'm like he's stepping out the play. I'm like, where you going? Where are you going? you
Queen,
know?
last game, he jumped out the way and got called for a foul. I mean, he fouled the dude, but that's like you saying, he's trying to avoid contact. Like, dude, if you there, try to prevent the shot. That means whether you got a foul or not, you know what I mean? Prevent the basket. Like that's something I was always told. Like, if you're gonna foul, make sure they going to the line shooting too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't be passive and then getting called for a foul.
Right. Yeah. 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 You know, this is wishful thinking. I don't like Cat at the 4 defensively, just him guarding in space, but it depends on who's behind him. But having, like, just say if Hartenstein, well, I know Hartenstein is not here. I know. I'm just dreaming. I'm dreaming because as much as I like Cat at the 5 offensively, I would be okay putting him at the 4 if we had another center like Hartenstein at the 5, because then I don't think you're losing anything offensively. Like, you got 2 big guys who can move the ball and pass to each other and kind of keep the offense moving. And then you have rebounding and rim protection from the center. I know. I just wanted to get that out of there. Wishful thinking.
The problem is, even the guys that are available that could fill that kind of role are veteran minimum guys, and they're out, like right now that's out the price range.
Yeah,
you
no
know
doubt.
what I mean?
No
Like
doubt.
you,
No doubt.
so, but I mean, it seemed like that was a point of emphasis of where they were looking in the preseason or before the season. But then once they got Cat, it was like, all right. And it seems like the plan is wait it out, whether that's for Mitchell Robinson or, you know what I mean? It would have been nice to see what Precious, like how things are going to be with Precious or how things would have been so far. Because who knows? Maybe he's playing alongside Cat some minutes, and that might open some things up.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Um, and then moving OG to the 3, and I like starting Precious is really not about Hart. Starting Precious to me is about OG. Starting Precious is about getting a power forward that can rebound next to Cat.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what it's about. For me,
and that helps Mikal Bridges too.
Right.
Because in other words, then OG shifts to the 3, and with those two kind of in tandem toward the front of the defense, as opposed to being
Back
kind
end
of
for OG.
guarding the 4, whoever that might be, that changes the dynamics there also, I think.
Yeah. Shout out to Nick Yak, who said, I'm sorry, here it is. Play Sims with Cat, you get rebound help and pay protection and put. Yeah, I see. I don't like, and we may not be able to get past this. I don't like playing Cat with a limited center. I just think it impacts our offense. It helps our defense, but it impacts our offense. And maybe at the end of the day, it's a net positive.
Yeah.
At the end of the game, maybe it's a net positive. But offensively, having somebody in there that can't pass the ball, that can't shoot, and it's not even shoot, can't move the offense along by just getting it and whipping it to the next person. To me, it just makes the offense stagnant and makes us easier to guard. But yeah,
I don't think that's a horrible idea though. And
I'm not saying it's horrible.
The
I'm not
reason,
saying it's horrible either. Well,
the
it
reason,
wouldn't be Sims though. Sims is horrible. I wouldn't play Sims with Cat. But we're talking about a limited center, whether that's Mitchell Robinson, whether that's I don't know who else. You know what I mean?
if
But it's
Hart,
not Sims, not Sims.
if Hart wasn't playing so well, I wouldn't be opposed to it. Only because, again, he makes a good point, and he's probably a better rim protector. He's still gonna have some fouls.
Sims?
Yes,
Sims is not a rim protector at all.
He's more of a rim deterrent, is what I'll say. That he might not block a shot.
I understand what you're saying. Sims is over there getting people are jumping over his head, getting rebounds. He can't even get his hands. Let's talk about Mitch next to Towns. Let's not talk about Sims.
Listen, the only thing that I'll say about it is it'll be highly limited minutes. So even if you started the game that way, again, I wouldn't do it right now because Hart is playing well in the starting lineup. You know what I mean? Like if Hart was the problem, I would consider that. If Precious wasn't, you know what I mean, imminently coming back, I would consider it. But I just don't think it's a crazy idea. But it would have been smarter starting the year that way. I wouldn't do it right this minute.
But even if you don't have to start Sims with, this is not something I would do at all.
I hear you. I know.
But you don't even have to start Sims with Cat. You could just get the minutes together. You don't have to start. You could just give them minutes together. I would be more open to, first of all, not even open to it. I like if Mitchell Robinson is healthy, I'm all for Mitch playing minutes with Cat. I'm all for it. The versatility of having a Mitchell Robinson who could play behind Cat and could play with Cat help this team. I am not for Mitchell Robinson and Cat playing most of their minutes together. It's just not something.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
It's not something that I'm for. I just think it just hampers our offense. Just first of all, Cat won't be able to drive anymore because Mitchell Robinson's guy is going to be right there in the paint. So that takes away the drive. If he's down in the post, easier to double team with Mitchell Robinson's guy right there. It just and maybe I'm thinking worst case scenario.
I think you are. I think
Okay, all
because
right.
because
Maybe I'm thinking worst case
because
scenario.
the things you're saying are right, but I also think there's positives that come with it as well. You know what I mean?
No
So
doubt on the defensive end you're talking about. Oh, absolutely.
yeah,
No doubt about it.
and the offensive end, because it's again, the lob threat that Mitchell Robinson is coming from Cat. I think he might be his most
That would definitely be an
his
option.
easiest target. You know what I mean? Like as far as things of that nature. So I think it'll open up some things as well. So it'll just be a give and take. So I'm not saying you're looking at worst case scenario, but you're looking at one side of it. So you know what I mean, like, it may and as a team we're used to that, right? We're used to playing with Mitchell Robinson as that anchor, right? And kind of maneuvering through the limitations it brings. So, but I wouldn't necessarily start him. Or if he did start, I wouldn't necessarily have it at 30 minutes together. You know what I
Correct.
mean?
Correct. Yeah, exactly. As long as it's not, 30 minutes together, I'm all for playing Mitchell Robinson with Cat for some minutes behind Cat. First of all, I think Mitchell Robinson would be perfect. A healthy Mitchell Robinson would be perfect. You know? Um, but again, not matched up 30 minutes. Jeff?
Yeah, I don't think Robinson, if and when he comes back, is going to have starters minutes. I think when he comes back, he's going to be an 18 to 20 minute guy. And you're going to see a lot of, and I could be wrong about that, but I just think that you're right. On your assessment. And I think that you could play Towns and Heat together for, a few minutes, 4 or 5 minutes, just to have the look. And then he's really the primary backup center who does all of the things that we know he can do with that second unit and really solidifies it from that standpoint. And I think he would be really strong. I mean, his offensive rebounding would be great. And you can play a couple, and units with Mitch, OG, and Bridges together defensively.
We was talking
For
about
a
this
guy who loves
earlier.
defense, that I want to see that. Like I
Right.
sign me up for that. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't feel like Robinson is gonna be like with Cat in the building. I don't think he's a 30-minute a game. I mean, he never was a 30-minute a game guy because of injuries, but I don't think he's going to be any more than the 24 minutes or whatever his minute max was for over the course of his 6 years. I don't think he's going to be much more than that if and when he comes back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he has to though,
I agree.
because if you're spotting it's 48 minutes. Let's say you getting 10 minutes as a true backup. You know what I mean? Or let's say 12 minutes as a true backup center minutes, and then you getting another 8 to 12 minutes with Cat. You know what I mean? I think that he still ends up with the same amount of minutes as normal, maybe a little bit less. You know what I mean? But it doesn't. You know what I mean? Like the fact that they'll be able to play together a little bit, that'll help him maintain his normal amount of minutes. And he's never really played over 29 minutes, I think, a game was his max.
26, I think.
26. So
Might
you
be
know what I mean? Like
26, 27. Yeah.
so it's not gonna be hard to kind of stay right in that realm.
It
Yeah.
just ramps up our
Once he's fully
versatility
healthy.
and our options.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing about it is that second unit with Mitchell Robinson, man, a healthy Mitchell Robinson, man. Let's see.
Opens up the door for Kolek too. You know what I mean? Somebody who has give Kolek some more backline defense, and you got a guy in Kolek who could feed Mitchell Robinson and kind of help him get his offense going.
I agree, but I don't. I once we back full strength, I don't see Kolek playing over
Payne
Canton.
or
But
Deuce.
worse things have happened. I mean, not worse things. More
Stranger
surprising things have happened. So I wouldn't put it out the realm of possibility. You know,
The thing with Kolek is he's might be better suited playing next to Cam, next to Deuce. You know what I mean? As opposed to, as much as I like him next to Brunson, now you talk about two weaker defenders. You know what I mean? So he may get more opportunity to play next to those guys who are better defenders than he would with us not at full strength. I still think
I don't see
his spotty
Tibbs
minutes for
doing it.
him regardless.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? But
yeah. I don't see Tibbs doing it, but I ain't mad at it if he if he does. All right, let's get to the next games real quick. We play Philly Tuesday, Chicago Wednesday, and then back to back with Brooklyn. And I think both of them are on the road. If I'm not
I think they're
or
both at
home.
home.
I'm sorry, home. Right, both of them are home.
That's right.
And then Monday we play somebody. We play Washington Monday. Actually,
And then
but
we go on the road
then we
for 5.
go on the road. 3-1 this week, 4-0 this week. The reason, but I'll just say this: Chicago is a team that hasn't had a lot of turnover, if I'm not mistaken. And Brooklyn, have they had a lot of turnover since last
they
season?
lost.
Well,
They
they lost Mikal
lost
Bridges.
McCall. They lost McCall, but they got Bogey.
And
But
Ben Simmons is back.
But yeah. The only reason I say that is teams with continuity, like a lot of times we look at the Knicks and be like, and we're just going by individual talent, but that individual talent hasn't meshed yet.
mm-hmm.
And so when you're going against a team that hasn't had a lot of turnover and has had continuity, they could be just as good, even though their individual talent is not as good, if that makes sense. So that's what we're dealing with. A lot of times we'll look at a roster like, "Yo, we should have beat them. We got better talent than they got, but our talent hasn't meshed yet."
Not only that, not only do they have that chemistry or camaraderie or whatever that what I mean from being together, they also have no pressure. You know what I mean? It's not like they've been together 4 years and you know what I mean, this is the year. No, they just lost their main guy, Brooklyn in particular. You know what I mean? Like there's no pressure to succeed. There's no expectation they're playing free. You know what I mean? They're playing to see who might be interested in the trade for them. You know what I mean? They playing to prove people wrong. Like, oh y'all don't expect us to be in the play-in. Like, nah,
Right,
you know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah,
they got that on their side where, sometimes like us, you make all these big moves, these big blockbuster headlining trades. That comes with expectation. You know what I mean? That doesn't come with patience. You know what I mean? Especially like for the fan base and the media, they expect us to hit the ground running. So
yeah, and a lot of the fans do as well. Somebody had a comment way in the beginning that we should be killing these teams, and I'm like, why should we be killing them? Because we have better players. We haven't really meshed yet. We're up and down. We're short-handed. We're it's a lot going on. Anyway, what's your record for this upcoming week?
it's 4 games.
Philly, Chicago, Brooklyn. Chicago is home as well. I know Philly is on the road.
I'm not sure. I know
I'll
they
tell you
said
right now.
I know they said we're home this. I thought they said we're home this whole week.
I'll tell you right now. Yeah, we're at the 76ers, but the Bulls are at home. Both Brooklyn games are at home, and Wednesday the Wizards are at home. I mean,
Next Wednesday.
so after Philly, it's going to be 4 games. But this week, These 4 games is going to be 1 away, 3 at home.
I'm going back to my undefeated. I, when I was switching it up, like weird stuff was happening. So I go undefeated. If we lose one, I'll be all right.
Okay, 4-0.
Well, I jinxed us last week by saying we are going to go 3-1, so I'm gonna go 2-2, and then maybe we'll go 4-0. Brooklyn scares me though, because they're going to give us their best game both times. It's not really a road game for them either. It's the same crowd at Barclays. It's, you know, all Knick fans either way. They own our draft pick, so nothing will be, you know what I mean? They're going to be sky high for that game. They're going to want to show out. They're going to want to beat McCall, and it's tough to beat a team twice in succession like that. So those 2 games scare me for sure. But yeah, I'll go with 2-2, I guess.
Yeah, I'm between 2-2 and 3-1, not because of the talent of the Knicks. It's just because of our short rotations, even if we do play more guys, it's going to be, you know, younger guys, and we're just not there yet, man. We're just not there yet. But I'm gonna be optimistic. I'm gonna say the Knicks go 3-1, but I wouldn't expect cakewalks with Chicago and Brooklyn. That you just
Don't
going to
expect
show up.
cakewalks out of any of these games for a while till we get our players back and our feet set and our rotation solid.
Yeah.
Then you might see some of those. But for right now, it's going to be a bumpy ride. So just hold on tight and be strapped in with your seatbelt is what I would say.
As much as I like blowouts, the Knicks might not need to blow anybody out for a while. They might need to kind of scrap and claw and fight their way to a couple of wins in a row. This way they don't get too confident and too high on themselves. You know, for the next opponent. So yeah, I like blowouts. I do. They're calming. It's easy to watch. You know what I mean? But they
also,
might
they need to learn how to win together as a group in those
moments
on the stretch. In other words, that was something that we kind of took for granted last year. Is they were really good down the stretch, but they had that cohesion more so than this group has never really won together in those tight moments of games. And you've kind of seen that. I think we're not necessarily sure where we want to go with the ball. Our defensive rotations are just a second step slow or a second late or whatever the case may be. But I think we've seen that quite a bit early on. So it's part of the process is learning how to win those close games as a group. And that's a process that takes time. We like to think, oh, just talent wins out, but no, you've got to learn how to win together and what works for your group.
Right.
I agree. We've been smacking some teams and blowing them out, but those fourth quarter collapses and like those deal with chemistry and things of that nature. Yeah, I like that. Let's figure out how to win some close ones and gut out some wins to kind of that. I'd rather that boost our confidence than us blow some teams out and get overconfident and big headed.
Just win, man. I don't care how it comes. It's just win. You know,
well, if they won every game by 20, I don't think Tony would come on here on Monday complaining. I think he would be just fine.
Absolutely, but I know it. My stomach could be turning when we're in a close game, and I wouldn't know if I'd be confident or not, considering the close ones we haven't been able to pull them out. You know what I mean? We lost some winnable games. You know what I mean? And that's all I'm saying. Like, I want to see how we win the tough ones. You know what I mean? Like, because that'll help us down the road.
Yeah. Kat said that last year, they went to the Western Conference Finals, and it was like game 80, game 81, game 82, right around there. And I think it was seeding, right? They were fighting for seeding, and he was like looking back to game 1 and looking back to game 4, like those games in the beginning of the season that they lost and how it would have helped them down this, down the stretch when they were battling for seeding. But his point was that every game counts. He said, you letting these games get away and they can come back and impact you toward the end of the season when it comes to seeding, So the Knicks can't get cute. Every game, every game counts. Oh, we're going to just use this as practice and see where we are. No, try to get every game you can get. Because it can make a difference in your seating, in the road that you have in the playoffs. It's hard to see that now when it's only 9 games in and 10 games in. But when you get in the game 80, not even 80, like 76, and you in 4th place and 2 games out of second, you're like, remember that game against Chicago? If we would have just closed that out. Anyway, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the chat. Drugs only. Salute to you, brother. It's been a minute.
Yo,
Nick Yak, Andrew K, appreciate you. Old Head, Mike Boy, DN, Wiz was in the house. Appreciate you. The coolest 718, Kevin Bergen, Rick James, Keith Turner, appreciate you. Wacko in Brooklyn was in the house. Appreciate you as well. The coolest 718. I may not get to Miguel P, Wayne Peterson. I might get to. I think that is about.
I am Jarrell.
I am Jarrell. Definitely.
Yeah.
Salute my brother. Angel Torres. Wonder Woman was in the house early. Deron Wayne. Elliot Belen. I don't know if this is your first time. Welcome. Appreciate you. David L. Byer. And I'm missing somebody. There he is. Docosaurus _ Rex. Appreciate you, my brother. Always rocking with us. And Don Ross Gallman. I know I butchered that. Appreciate you. Ivory 10, Rand Rock. Nick P, East Blue Drew. Listen, if I forgot you, it's all love. Thomas Banks, appreciate you with the super chat. Chuck D, appreciate you stopping by as well. Any last words?
It's one thing I love about the NBA is there's always a game in the next day or two. You know what I mean? So we could get off this loss and regroup and start a win streak. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. Shout out to the chat. Yo Blackest Time, Replay Gangs, Queen,
Replay Gang.
Jeff. Appreciate y'all.
Yep. All right. We were 1-3 last week. Let's make it 3-1, 4-0 this week. Shout out to Tony Crow, Jeff. Shout out to Sim. Appreciate you. I think he's coming on tomorrow. He said if I can make it, I'll definitely hop on. And Wednesday, I should be back with the game recap during your lunch break Wednesday around 12:45. Until next time, fam. Appreciate you.